slideshow, just do let me know maybe if one of two of you can shout if you can see it. Is that okay?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, good, thank you. And you can hear me all right, obviously. So I'll make a start. Hello, I'm Jamie Buick. I'm the Assistant Director of Finance at Sussex Community. I know quite a few of you on the call, but one or two that I don't. So yeah, nice to meet you if I haven't met you before. And I think some of you will have heard me speak about accreditation before as well, because I have done presentations on this in other forums as well. But I have tried to update the content and make it more fresh. And also, well, the reason I've been asked to talk about accreditation is we got our level 3 back in 2022. At the time, we were the only organisation in the south that had the level 3. I'm pleased to say we're not the only organisation anymore. We've got Kent and Medway Partnership Trust are also level 3 in our region as well. And we've got Nick Brown's here today, and he's going to share some reflections from his accreditation journey as well. So after I've spoken, you'll hear as well from Nick and have some chances to ask some questions of him too. So I will make a start if that's okay. Also, Aoife, I can't see any raised hands here. So if there are any queries, maybe you can let me know and I'll respond to them.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So this is what we'll cover today. So we'll talk about the accreditation, what accreditation is, and talk a bit about levels 1, 2, and 3, with a particular focus on what the level 3 expectations are and how that differs from the other two levels. We'll talk a bit about the process and a bit about the benefits of accreditation as well. And you know, I'll give some examples from our journey and how we approached the process and also how it's benefited us at Sussex Community. But before that, I suppose there's a bit of a more fundamental question to ask, which is kind of why bother? What's the point of it? And I know you've all taken time out of your busy days to join this presentation today, so I'm probably speaking to an audience of the converted right now, but I know there are probably some in the region who are still quite disengaged from this. So I mean, just think about why you would want to get accredited, why this is a good thing for your organisation. I think it's good to refer to the definition that's on the Future Focused Finance website. So it refers in that definition to a great place to work. How do you create a great place to work? How do you create a culture where staff feel appreciated and successes are celebrated? And I would like to think that that's something that most finance teams would aspire to really, and would want that for their teams. And that's a good reason to engage in the process and try and make your way through the different levels and get the accreditations. I think there is a view in some quarters that this is a bit of a technical process, a bit like an audit. You get a checklist, you fill it in, you send it away, and it gets ticked off, and then you get your accreditation. And there is a bit of that in the process, but I think you shouldn't lose sight about what the overall purpose of it is. It's about creating a great place to work. And yeah, I think what we found going through the process is it's really helped us by sort of defining put some structure around that question. What does a great place to work look like? What sort of things would you expect to see there? How do we measure ourselves against the best organisations, and what do we need to do to get there? So that's one of the ways it's helped us in the journey and kept us motivated to go through the 3 levels. Here's a bit more context for you. So this is just a list of accreditations numbers across the country and across our region. I think you can probably see for that I mean, Southeast, we're not a massive outlier, but we are definitely lagging behind most of the rest of the country in terms of the number of organisations that don't have any accreditations yet, and a relatively small number that have got to level 2 and level 3. So I mean, that's some of the background to why there's a focus on this in the Southeast at the moment. It'd be really great to get some more organisations at level 2 and some more organisations at level 3. And it's a challenging process, but it's perfectly doable, and there are really, really strong benefits for doing it. So hopefully persuade you of some of that today. Just moving on, I'm going to talk a bit about the 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3, and what the differences are and what the particular expectations at level 3 are. And I will start with the definitions that are on the the One NHS Finance website. So it gives quite sort of technical definition there. It talks about level 3 being a leading edge NHS finance function and supporting development of the wider improvement of the NHS finance system and beyond. So we can see a bit in that definition about what some of the expectations are of a level 3 organisation, and it's about being a leader, being outward focused, being engaged with the wider finance community, playing a bit of a leading role. I mean, you will see from the figures that I held up before, there are relatively few level 3 organisations at the moment. There are only 20 in the country, and half of those, 10 of those, are in the northwest. So it is a relatively small number at level 3 at the moment, and the expectation, these are the ones that are setting the tone, setting the right example for the rest of the system, and are engaged with the system. So that's one definition. Got this from a guy called David Elcock, who was our assessor, Sussex Communities assessor at level 2 and at level 3. So I've explained it in a different way, which is a bit more pithy and I think a bit more useful as well. So he's talked about at level 1, there are processes in place. So you can get your level 1 just by having the right policies and procedures. Level 2, you have to go that step further and provide evidence and demonstrating that those processes are working. But level 3 is really about making a difference. And it's, if you are thinking of going for that level 3 assessment, it's about demonstrating that added value, demonstrating the so what. So you've got good training arrangements, but who have you trained? What examples? How has it benefited them? How has it benefited your organisation? So we've done that by, in our application, we try to evidence that by telling stories and giving examples, and really showing not just that we've got good arrangements in place, but what have the outcomes been? What have the results been? So that's another sort of lens of looking at the 3 levels. And I've got a third one to share with you, and this is also from David. So level 1's a focus on the finance department. So have you got an effective finance team? Do you have the policies and processes you'd expect to have? Level 2 is about the profile of the team within the organisation. But at level 3, there's an emphasis on the finance community, about an external focus and being engaged with the ICS and with the finance community more broadly. So I'm hoping that from those 3 definitions, you can see the broad thrust of what's the expectation for a level 3. It's making a difference, adding value, being outward focused, being engaged with the community, and taking a lead. Those are the sorts of things that you need to demonstrate in your application if you're thinking of going for that level. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the expectations of level 3 now. And yeah, so making a difference. So think about those with the criteria, with a checklist, thinking about not just have you got the policy in place, but what difference has it led to? What improvement has it led to? What difference has it made to your finance team and to the people working in it? And being able to articulate that in your application and through the assessment day. So the way that we did that, as I say, was looking at examples and stories and case studies and writing them up. And actually, when the assessor comes to the assessment day, having those people available to talk to the assessor and articulate to them, how the finance team supported them in their career journey, or what difference working in that organisation has made, both to them as individuals and to the team. So you won't get level 3 just by providing a policy. It's about being able to tell those stories and explain them and articulate them, and giving examples of being active in the wider finance community as well. But I'll come to that in a moment. But I've highlighted that last bullet point, and that's a very important one if you are thinking of level 3. So when you're applying for a level 3, you will not just be assessed against level 3. You're assessed at all 3 levels. So if you've gone through, you will have gone through the level 1 and the level 2 assessments before you get to the level 3. You will need to keep evidence for all 3 levels for your level 3 application, and they're not always the same questions. So you need to make sure that you look at the expectations at all 3 levels, and you've got evidence to support all 3, not just the highest level. I think this is a trap we nearly fell into when we did our application, that we assumed by default if we met level 3 then we would automatically meet the other 2 levels, and I think in most cases you do, but they're not always the same emphasis. So you do need to make sure that you still meet and you can provide evidence for all 3. So just talking a bit about that outward focus, that engagement with the wider community. So what do we mean by that? So it could be engagement with the ICS, and are you able to give examples where people in your team not only attend ICS level groups, but perhaps chair some of them and take a leading role in some of them? And can you articulate those and explain them in your bid? So is your organisation engaged with HFMA or SIPFA or the One NHS Finance? So do you attend the regional conferences, and do you play a leading role in the skills development network? Is anyone in your organisation a member of the HFMA committee, and do you attend those committees? So it's again, like I said before, it's having that outward focus and being able to articulate that and giving examples of it. So local and national groups. So one of the examples that we gave is we've got a team member who chairs a regional costing group, and we were able to give that as an example of that outward focus, and not just attending groups but playing a leading role in them. Has your organisation contributed to any national reports or studies? Are you engaged with that kind of agenda with the HFMA policy team? And local and national publications, they're also good examples that you might be able to give. So in our application, our CFO Mike had contributed an article to HFMA magazine earlier in the year, so we're able to give that as an example of how our organisation, our finance team, has raised its profile with the wider finance community. So if you've got any examples like that, or if you haven't, perhaps think about how you can get engaged with those groups and be able to give those examples when you come to give your level 3 application. So if you've already been through any of the levels of future focused finance, you'll see what big emphasis there is on training and apprenticeships through the process. So I think to get your level 1, you could get that just by having a decent training policy. But at level 3, like I said before, the emphasis really is on outcomes and stories. So I've got some pictures on here of current or recent trainees that we've had. Actually, I probably should have asked permission of them first. So sorry, Beth, if you're watching. But they're some of our current trainees. At the moment, we've got 5 people actively training for professional qualifications. And again, if you're doing a level 3 application, it's about telling their story. So I think in our application, we were able to talk about how we were able to access the apprenticeship levy, and that got us funding to support people in studies where perhaps they wouldn't have had that opportunity before, and explaining some of the outcomes as well. So for those people, that training and development has helped them take on more senior roles and more responsibilities and develop their careers. And for the organisation, it's upskilled our people. It's helped not only recruit new people who are attracted by the training offer, but retain those people once they're here, because the likelihood is once somebody embarks on a 3-year training program, they'll stay for at least the 3 years and probably beyond, because you've supported them in their career, and that investment we found does pay back. So again, given those sorts of examples in your application really helps. Equality, diversity and inclusion. There's a big emphasis on this throughout the process. So giving examples of that, in both involvement in national and regional groups and your EDI strategy, and giving examples as well. So in our application, we talked about our involvement with Kickstart and the Prince's Trust, and they're 2 schemes which are aimed at social mobility and giving opportunities to young people to access careers in finance who might not otherwise have had that opportunity, in looking at alternative ways of recruitment and bringing people into the organisation, and having a more diverse workforce in that way. And I'm sure you'll all have plenty of examples of your own that are different examples, but it's it's really about telling those stories and giving that evidence for the level 3 is what's needed for that process. Sponsorship and mentoring. So there's an expectation that organizations at level 3 will be part of the sponsorship scheme and will have a mentoring offer, and that all staff will have an opportunity to access those mentoring. Not necessarily that all do, but everyone should have the opportunity to access sponsorship and mentoring opportunities if they want to do so. And again, we were able to give 1 or 2 examples of that as both as mentor and mentee in our application. Again, networking. Do you have value makers in your organization? Do you have finance and clinical educators? These are all really good evidence that you're engaged in the with the wider finance community and with OneHS Finance, and that's one of the expectations at all levels, but particularly at level 3. I've given here just some pictures of some of our team who've signed up to be value makers, and some people from other organizations as well. And well-being. I suppose this is quite an interesting one. When we first started our accreditation journey back in 2018, this wasn't really a thing in the future focused finance programs. This is something that's been added as an expectation later on, particularly after COVID. And I think this is just an illustration that if you're going back to to apply and going for levels 2 and level 3, just make sure that you check you've got the current version of the standards there, because they do evolve over time. And some things get more of an emphasis, and some things are taken off the standards. So this is something that is an expectation now at all levels, that you'll have a wellbeing ambassador and you'll be involved in wellbeing groups and be able to give examples of how you've promoted staff wellbeing through your finance teams. So one of the things that we were able to quote as our example was the wellbeing fund that we have, that some of our staff can access for improvements to their working environment, and the finance team's involvement in that. So that's quite a quick whistle-stop tour through some of the expectations at level 3. So I'm just going to talk a bit about the actual process of pulling together your application and what you need to do if you're considering level 3. This is quite a wordy slide about the level 3 submission process, so I won't go through all of it, but just to highlight some key points. One is quite an obvious point, but if you're going for level 3, it's assessed, so you will need an assessor. And there are lots of organizations seeking accreditation and a limited pool of assessors, so make sure that you give the OneNHS Finance team plenty of notice that you're thinking of going for this. They advise around 6 months notice, before you're thinking of having your assessment day. So again, if you're thinking of this, don't delay. Make contact with the team, and they'll put you on the list for an assessor. As I mentioned before, make sure you're using the latest and the current version of the assessment questions, because they do change, and they're about to go through a new iteration in the next month or so as well. So if you're thinking of looking at it now, just be aware that there's about to be another annual update to the questions. So when you actually fill it in, make sure you're using the right version. I think another thing to note about this is just the timelines. So all accreditations have to be approved by the Finance Leadership Council. The FLC meets 3 times a year, and the deadlines for applications are built around the meeting times for the FLC. So think about whether you're going for a summer, a December or an April application. Make sure you build that into your timeline and you don't end up just missing one of those dates and having to wait another 4 months. It's just something to think about in scheduling your assessment visit and your assessment application. And yeah, I'd probably highlight the last point on there as well. So once you've got a level 2 or a level 3, you don't keep that forever. You do need to be periodically re-accredited. And actually, we're due for our re-accreditation next year in 2025, and it's been quite useful for me actually thinking about this again, because we need to start in the summer pulling together our evidence for our reaccreditation, hopefully next year. So some of the preparation that I've done for this this presentation today were really useful for that. Talk about so I mentioned just now you need an assessor, and when you're assigned an assessor, there are sort of there's a lot that the assessor does, but just if I can very simplify this to 3 stages. So there's the review of the evidence stage. So you'll fill in the template from the One NHS Finance website and provide your evidence. And in advance of the visit, the assessor will look at that and check that you've provided evidence for all of the questions, and the evidence actually answers the questions and it's satisfactory evidence. I mean, there'll probably be some toing and froing and clarification as part of that process, but that's the initial stage, is reviewing the application and evidence. And then you will need to arrange an assessment day with the assessor, which might be online or it might be in person. This in itself takes a lot of organising, because if you read the guidance for level 3, there's quite a lot involved in the level 3 process. The assessor will need to meet your CFO and your chief executive, and they'll need to meet 3 budget holders, preferably at least one of them from a clinical background, and they'll need to be 25% of the team, which is the guideline as well. And I'm conscious that for some organisations, 25% of the team might be quite a lot of people. Fortunately, you can do that in groups, so it doesn't need to be individual meetings with every single person. It can be a group of, say, financial accounts team members and a group of management accountants, and do it that way. But yeah, it's probably quite a bit of logistics and coordination to setting up that assessment day and getting everything in a row for that assessment to happen. And at the conclusion of that process, the assessor will write an accreditation report summarising the findings and making it. It's not the assessor themselves who give you the accreditation; it's the FLC that do that. But the assessor will make a recommendation to the FLC. I've never known them to disagree with an assessor's conclusion. So, but that's the formality, and that's how the process works. I would say if you are level 2. There's an expectation and you have the opportunity to become an assessor once you've got to that level. And I would definitely recommend it. So Tim and myself have been assessors since we got our level 2 back in 2020. And I would say we've really learned so much from the 4 organisations that we've been to see and visit and do the assessments for. We've always come back with loads of ideas. So I think things that they do really well that we hadn't thought of, and and we're able to share some of our reflections with them as well. So I think it's very much worth, if you have the opportunity to become an assessor, taking up that opportunity and doing that. And you learn an awful lot from it. And in fact, it's an essential thing for level 3 as well. If you are planning to go for your level 3 assessment, there's an expectation that somebody from your team will be an assessor and will have done an assessment already. So these are the standards. So I won't spend a lot of time going through those. If you've been through a level 1, you'll be familiar with the different criteria. So I'll skip past that one. So I'll take a moment to talk about some of the must-haves. So I guess on the through the accreditation process, as assessors, we try not to have too many red lines and too many. It's not a case that if you fail one question, you fail everything. We try and take a rounded view, recognising that every finance team is going to be different and will have its own individual strengths. And some teams will be stronger at some things than others, and that's certainly true of our finance team at Sussex Community. But with a rounded view, we'd expect you to be able to answer every question, and have certain strengths and certain development areas which would be reflected in the reports. So as part of that, the regime doesn't have that many sort of red lines, questions that if you fail them, you fail everything. But there are some, and those are the ones on this screen here. And it's probably worth taking a note of them now if you're thinking of going for your level 3. So you must be able to evidence that members of your team have job descriptions, appraisals and PDPs. That's a given. You must have a signed declaration from the CFO. And I think probably everyone on this call will have that, but it might be that some of you, will have signed that a long time ago, and it might be worth refreshing that if you're thinking of going for the level 3 now, especially if you've had changes of personnel in the meantime. I mentioned before finance and clinical educators. So it's a requirement that somebody from your team will be part of the FACE network, and the level of membership will depend on the level of accreditation that you're going for. At level 3, you need somebody to be a FACE at level 3 as well. It's a challenging level to reach, but certainly not impossible. And to reach that level requires you to have delivered a certain number of teaching hours over the course of a year. I think most people who work in management accountants will have done that if you take a broad interpretation of what teaching hours is. But it's been able to evidence that and apply for the FACE membership and get that in advance of your accreditation. That's just something to build into your planning. There's an expectation that you'll have a wellbeing champion. There's an expectation that you'll have an assessor. There's an expectation, actually a level 1 expectation, that you be registered with the professional bodies. So make sure that you still are registered with them and that registration is up to date when you go for your level 3. And an expectation as well on criteria 4 that you have a skills development strategy and action plan, and that's up to date. Conscious of how long I've been talking for, so I'll come to the end of this in a moment. So talk about some benefits to your organisation. I say it's about a great place to work. It's about recognising and celebrating success. And I think, although it's it's a challenging process to go through to get to level 3, and it's meant to be, that's really reserved for top performing finance teams. It's certainly not impossible to get to it. There are 2 organizations on this call that have managed it, and I'm sure that you could too. And the rewards are you're aware that you've done everything that you can to make your team a great place to work and recognize success and make your staff feel appreciated, and that's something we can all aspire to. And it gives you a framework for improvement and reaching best practice as well. So one of the benefits to us, so we were following our accreditation in 2022, we were the regional finance team of the year in that year. So that's us getting our reward at the conference. That's a celebrating success from last year. Very important thing. Some of you might have seen that picture before, but really important to celebrate success. And this is so there has been some research done looking at the correlation between staff satisfaction and accreditation level. And there is a small but statistically significant link between staff satisfaction and the level of accreditation that you've got. And it's higher on all categories across the board. And the level of staff satisfaction is higher, the higher the level of the accreditation that you've got as well. So I think that's it's not a huge difference, but it's a significant difference, and that's another reason why you might want to aspire to the highest level that you're able to reach on the accreditation. Other benefits, so recruitment and retention. I say having a decent training offer for staff has certainly helped us bring in talent. Certainly, young people looking to start their careers are attracted by the the training offer that they've got at Sussex Community, and it's helped us get lots of applicants when we offer those kinds of roles. It's helped us to grow our own talent as well. So when we have got, when people inevitably leave and vacancies come up, we've got people from within our own team ready to fill those vacancies, and that sort of pipeline of talent coming through. And by paying attention to our staff training and staff development, we've been able to do that really effectively and give some really good examples of that. And it's certainly been very good publicity for our team. It's helped our reputation as a finance team across Sussex and more broadly as well. And like I said, becoming assessors helped us learn from other finance teams as well and shamelessly steal ideas from them. So that's actually, I'm going to stop sharing now because that's brought me to the end of my slides. I think what I'll do next, I'll probably hand over to Nick, and then you might have some questions for both of us after that, hopefully. So maybe Nick, you could share some of your reflections on level 3.
I'll come in. Thanks, Jamie. Just to say good afternoon. I'm Nick Brown, Chief Finance Officer at Kent and Medway Partnership Trust. And we had the pleasure, and we did have the pleasure of Jamie assessing us at the back end of last year, which was a really sort of positive experience. So what I said I'd do today, just come along, give a bit of my thoughts that in terms of where things are. And hearing Jamie speak, I've kind of changed my introduction. And the bit I was going to say is I came into Kent and Medway probably 18 months ago to cover the deputy role here. And I came from I probably shouldn't say I came from South East London ICB, but I've said it now. I came from South East London ICB, where we'd taken the kind of level 1 as a tick box, and kind of did it and put it on the shelf and left it there. So coming into the organisation, one of our aims was to get to level 3. One of my kind of objectives was, how do we get to level 3? Can we get that assessment done? And actually, my knowledge of kind of the approach, what was needed, was probably limited. So from a kind of personal perspective, I was starting from a standing start in terms of knowledge, and I say that in terms of actually it is possible. We can get there. It's built off your organisation. So I was really lucky to come into an incredible organisation that I work within. But actually, if this is an area you don't know, don't be afraid. Actually, the way to step forward is turning up today, having a think about what you can do, having a look at where you are as an organisation. So everyone has to start somewhere. It's probably more of where I was trying to get to. So kind of what I've been asked is kind of what did we do to prepare? How do we find the experience, and any kind of tips that I've got? And I think the kind of preparation point is we actually took time to prepare for where it is. So with Jamie's part that we have to let people know 6 months in advance. I think we started the process a year in advance in terms of where we were. And actually some of that was just to have those conversations. We got level 2 accreditation sort of 3 years prior. But just to have those conversations of actually, have we moved on as we think we have? How do we compare with now where does best practice stand? And actually it's a really useful conversation just to make that own self-assessment of what you've done, and use it as we're all trying to do the best practice. We're all trying to find the new ways of doing things, but actually just to take that time to kind of step back and assess where we are, I found really helpful. And we did that as a team. So the bit in the preparation that we did is we took the time as a team to sit down and talk through those standards, talk through the approaches we've got, talk through actually what is everyone doing, how does that compare to where we are. I found that really kind of fulfilling, because one, I was new into the organisation, but just to hear actually what was going on, but actually it gave people confidence in terms of actually to recognise the sort of great work that they were doing. So actually it started to turn it into a really positive experience, because actually members across my team were saying, oh, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, and actually they were some of the things that we could then put into our application, I was going to say bid, in terms of where things are. So in terms of preparation, it was just taking that time and doing it collectively across the trust, across your finance team. Don't try and do it on individuals. If you do it on individuals, if you're going for level 3, you won't succeed, because actually it is that kind of collective buy-in you're looking for as the organisation. The other piece I'd say on it, and it was a kind of later point, is it's a journey. So we got our level 3 accreditation back in December. But actually part of the conversations that we had highlighted that our talent management piece wasn't potentially where we wanted it to be. It was good, but actually from talking it through with the team, from talking it through with Jamie and the team as assessors, we actually just went, there's more we could do. So we don't take the level 3 as the kind of ultimate goal in terms of where things are. It's a journey to where we want to be, which is actually we want great teams for people to come and work within to actually grow NHS finance in a really positive way. So really reflect on actually don't make this the be all and end all. So actually, if you assess yourself and you think you're probably at level 2, don't overstretch for level 3. It's a pathway. I've just seen pathway on the screen, so it's just kind of jumped in my head. But it's a journey to actually how do we get to where we want to be, which is that really kind of positive finance experience we've got. So going in terms of onto the experience of the assessment itself. As Jamie's already touched on, there are logistical issues in terms of where things are. Trying to get sort of Jamie and his team together in terms of days that they could offer up, because in effect they're doing this within their day job, and they've got the day job going on as well. So getting their time available, but then making sure I get my chief executive there, making sure my diary's free, so actually we can give Jamie the time that kind of he needs to make that assessment. It's a piece of actually just there are logistical issues, so don't neglect them in terms of what you're doing. the piece in terms of the experience that we found, in terms of the first stage, in terms of sharing evidence, we very much had an open conversation with Jamie as we went through the process. In terms, we shared our initial evidence and we got feedback of these were bits that we don't think you've answered the question on, or we don't think your evidence supports where it is. So it is an open conversation in terms of where things are. So if you do get pushback, don't worry about it. Actually, it's being asked because you either what you think you put in, you might have missed a document or two, etc., etc. Please take it as, I found it really kind of constructive challenge in that first bit in terms of actually how we responded to. And I think that fed through into the assessment day in terms of the conversation I had with Jamie and the team in terms of my interview with them. I was challenged. I was kind of put on the spot. I kind of got tricky questions that I wasn't too sure on, but I also got a really open conversation about what best practice could look like. And actually by having the conversation with the assessors, actually some of it actually just said, and it's the piece in terms of our talent management, actually there's better ways. Have we quite stretched where we want to do? So I found it a really kind of positive piece in terms of where things are, in terms of how to kind of stretch it, actually how to gain insight in terms of to what other people are doing, actually just to open those communication links between organisations and in terms of where we're doing. And sort of like today, Jamie just reached out and said, do you want to do this with me? And I said, yeah, that's great. And actually it's that piece that actually my job's more interesting by meeting more people and actually learning from other people. And I'm hoping sort of all of us on this call feel the same. So this is about developing that kind of network as well. Just thinking about tips on this, I probably wrote down, I've written down 4 in terms of where things are. The first bit is be honest. Be honest with where you are. As I say, this is the second tip, so I've dropped into it. This is a journey in terms of where we're going on. So actually just be honest with where we are, where you are, what you're doing. The assessment is intense. There are questions asked in terms of all the things that you're putting forward in terms of assessing you against where it is. Don't try and sort of pull walls in terms of where things are. Don't try and kind of trick process. If there's bits that you need to work on, actually the point of the levels is actually this is a journey in terms of how we progress through, how do we support the development of finance across the NHS. So just be honest in your assessment, and then it makes it a really, really worthwhile experience in terms of what we're doing. The next bit is to use your whole team. This, as I say, level 3 is about where you are as an organisation. It's not an individual reflection in terms of people. So actually make sure your whole team are bought into wanting to do this, and make sure your whole team see how they can contribute or see how they are contributing, but bring your team with you and bring the team and make sure the team are fully sort of engaged in the application process and the kind of interviews in terms of where things are. And as Jamie said, he speaks to 25% of them, so that's the sizable number that will be kind of picked on to kind of have those conversations. The final bit I'd say is make sure you give it time. As I said with us, we made sure we had stuff in place and we started having the conversations a year before the kind of application assessment process that was happening. And that's just that some of that was for me in terms of being new into an organisation. So Jamie will obviously just pick up on the work that's been going on in terms of where things are, but actually just give it the time to make sure that you're in the best place to put the best application you can in, and that's really important. And then just moving on to kind of benefits of doing this, I'd written a piece around using it for challenge, using it for kind of personal growth, and there is all of that within it. But Jamie actually said it at the beginning, so I've just kind of noted down what I kind of see as the real benefit of doing this. And I think it comes down to what culture do you want to work within NHS Finance. And for me, I want to work in a team that makes a difference, and I think that's really important. And that's the piece on that level 3. It's where what we do starts to make a difference. And to me, there's probably 3 levels to that difference that we make. The first thing is and I've now got 4 as I'm saying it. First thing is within your trust, but we're looking at level 3. I'm just going to go slightly beyond that. We're then looking at how do we make a difference within the system we operate. What is it that we do to support the system in terms of its growth? As you'll all be aware, NHS Finance now, or NHS, are moving towards a system approach to work that we do. So actually, how do we influence that system? How do we work within it to maximise the kind of benefit of the populations we serve? And then the kind of 2 and 3 in terms of where we're trying to make a difference in terms of what we do is actually the people who work within your team. Actually, you want people to come to work. You want them to feel positive. You want them to feel valued in the work that they do. So what actually is it that we're doing every day to make sure that they feel like that? So I think there's a piece in terms of actually that internal focus on your team and that team development and making sure, and that sort of comes forward with the kind of level 3 piece of work. And then I think externally, and it's then the bit of actually, we can all do our own teams and make sure our teams work, but actually the life becomes better, becomes more enjoyable. Actually, the influence we can have comes from stepping beyond your organization. So actually, what have you done to influence teams beyond where you work day to day? What is it that you've been able to do? And I think that's really important in terms of if we're trying to grow a whole finance community and sort of grow the kind of levels across finance across the country, that comes from picking best practice from all over the places, because all things people do, there'll be best practice in everyone's role. Actually, how do we get that out there? How do we get that learning out there so people can sort of grow and develop in a kind of really positive way? So I was going to conclude on that point, if I may, and hopefully I've covered, Jamie, some of what you wanted me to, and then pause there, and as Jamie said, we take questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Tanya.
Either for Jamie or Nick, both of you, around time commitment, because of course we're all quite time pressured, aren't we? And what sort of level of staff, or how many people did you have doing the sort of application and collecting the evidence, etc.?
I mean, I don't mind starting on that. So it is a time commitment, and I think, as Nick said, it's far too much work for one person. I mean, the way to do this is to have a team together working on this collectively and sharing it out. I mean, the time commitment comes both from, you know, pulling the evidence together for the assessment before the assessment day, and then you know, the actual time commitment on the day itself. So I'd really struggle to put a number of days on it, but I think, you know, if you share it out, engage the whole team and motivate the whole team, you know, it's about improving your finance department, and it shouldn't feel like an additional, you know, or unnecessary bit of work at all. It's just part of improving your team. So I don't know, Nick, if you've got anything to add on that.
I was going to say, I think from our perspective, it came down to the is don't try and do it in sort of a week in terms of where things are. We ran it as we had each of the kind of key areas. We ran an individual meeting on it, so we just sat down and spoke it through as a team, spoke through where we were. That meeting, I think, was an hour and a half, so we did that, say, 6 times. Invited people that were interested, but asked everyone to attend one in terms of where things were. And then people went away, found the evidence, pulled it together, came back. We then had a second review with people in terms of talking it through. So it's probably about 15 hours, 16 hours of meetings in terms of kind of maximum, but that's spread over a sort of 3-4 month window in terms of where things are. So it was a genuine kind of conversation that is about, and it was talking about the team and talking about their development. So it wasn't a kind of add-on, because it actually is the stuff we should be doing anyway, or would be doing anyway. And then probably a couple of days just to put the application together, which was kind of a bit of time in terms of just making sure, and that's across a number of people. It wasn't just one person sitting there to go do this. So it is labor. There is a resource requirement, but I think, as Jamie said, it's a piece about how do you is what we are doing is what's supporting the team, and actually it's just making it part of that wider conversation. I think is the kind of approach.
Thank you.
Sophia, you're next.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for clarifying a lot of points on your slides, Jamie, and also Nick for sort of highlighting certain things we need to look out for. My question is, on the application, you've mentioned 25% of, is it the team or staff? Who chooses that 25%? Is it from you guys when you're assessing, or organization themselves picking that 25% of different teams? Or
so it's the assessors who would choose, but I think that choice would be influenced by, if there are people named in the assessment, like as case studies, you'd probably want to talk to them, for example. And when I've done assessments before, you'd want to have an even spread across the departments as well. So we don't want to talk to people at different levels in different teams. So we're not just getting, a view from the senior management team, but we're actually talking to a selection of the band 4s and 5s about their experience of working in the organisation. So yeah, it's the assessor who chooses, but we do that in discussion with the person pulling together the bid, and also with a view to having a broad range of people that we meet.
Okay, thank you.
So we've got Nikki.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Nikki Lloyd. I'm the Chief Finance Officer at the Royal Berkshire NHS FT, and we are going for level 3 accreditation this summer. So I just wanted to get your thoughts. I guess we've set up 3 work streams: processes, products, and people, in order to make sure we're addressing all sorts of different types of improvements across the finance department. And I was really interested to hear colleagues' comments about this is the whole team. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes the whole department to get accreditation, doesn't it? And I think it's a really strong message. I think sometimes people think you can give it to somebody to do, get us accredited and go and, one person's shoulders. But I'd really echo your description that everyone can help and everyone needs to be involved in it, because culture isn't about one keen person. It's about how you do stuff where you are. And I'm really keen that, like others, I'm keen to reach into other organisations and learn better practice, because we certainly don't have, nobody's got everything excellent, and there's always opportunities to improve, and it certainly fits with our improving together methodology, and we're doing CQI as a trust. But I do want to really, I guess, echo colleagues' comments about everyone in the department can contribute to this, and it doesn't matter what your badge says, or we often hear people talking about bands, which I always find a bit offensive, because it doesn't matter what your pay grade says. Everyone's in the team and everyone adds to the culture of the department. So I just urge everyone who's on this call to see how you can get involved, because like most things in life, if you put something in, you'll probably yield a harvest bigger than what you put into it.
Thank you, Nikki. Lorraine, you want to come in as well?
Thanks very much. The presentation and the talk was really super and really sort of encouraging for me. But I'm the FFF lead in the Academy for the South East, and one of the first slides that you put up was the accreditations across the region. And there are 38 organisations altogether that were on that slide, of which 19 had level 1, 2 at level 2 and 3 had level 3, but there were 15 who had no accreditation at all. Now, the biggest issue that I'm facing is trying to encourage those organisations to gain accreditation. What would you recommend, or how could I reach out to those organisations? Is there anything that, I've taken copious notes from your presentation, and I hope you're going to share it as well, because I thought it was really good and, really insightful. But it's, how do I engage the organisations that just don't seem to want to engage with me? Any recommendations? Or
I'll maybe ask Nick to answer that, because I know everyone in Kent has got it, level 1, haven't they? So what did you do there?
I was going to say, I think I came late to the party in terms of how you got people engaged in Kent, but I think it comes from speaking to the organisations themselves. So I think it's a one-to-one conversation, because actually the level 1 is, and having done it, it's a relatively simple assessment in terms of where things are. Yes, there are bits about getting the paperwork in place. There are sort of assurance bits that you will need to do, but actually the workload to get to level 1 is relatively light. So we can sit here and say, we can say all of that, but obviously something hasn't landed as yet in terms of where things are. So I think it comes down to, actually, do people understand what the kind of level 1 accreditation is. What does it mean? What's the intention behind it? Do people know kind of how light touch it is actually in terms of it's just submitting evidence? If I've please correct me, Jay, if I'm wrong in this, because I've only done the level 3, but it's a light touch, it's a review, and then it's a conclusion, as opposed to an interview piece in terms of where things are. So actually, I think it's actually just going out and speaking to people and saying, what is it that's stopping you from getting this? This is what we imagine you're doing every day, which is you want to invest in your teams, you want to invest in terms of getting best practice within your trust. So what is it that's stopping you from going forward with this? And I think it's just probably a case of picking each of the 19 or 15 people up and having that conversation with them. And if it needs, and I might regret saying this, if it needs people such as myself to do that, or people that have got that accreditation, it might just be that we need to offer that as a function of, if there's 15 people and there's a way to split that across a number of organisations, then I'd happily do half an hour conversations with people just to say, what is it that you're looking for, and let's speak from having done it, as opposed to a kind of, we want you to do this because it's an exercise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does actually, and it's probably a road that we would need to think about going down. And also, I see Nikki's got her hand up, but I think it's something that we need to gain engagement in from within the areas that perhaps are less well represented in maybe, sort of the wider, the more westerly part of the southeast, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Nikki, you wanted to come in again.
Yeah, we were having this discussion. I chaired an HFMA Environmental Sustainability Forum a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about what causes people to change, because effectively we're asking organisations to either affirm what they're doing and have an external party confirm that's what they are doing, or move towards an improved environment for staff and development, etc. I think people fall into different camps, don't they? Some people run away from a stick, some people run towards a carrot, and you can also make things happen through legislative change or incentives in contracts. We've seen that through Sequins, we've seen it through additional capital, etc. So we're all different, aren't we? And people are motivated by different things. So I think it's trying to work out what are the things that cause people to expend effort and make change, and therefore make sure every audience is appealed to. So if you're a person who doesn't want fines or penalties, there could be a consequence. So, if you're not accredited, then you won't get this or something. Or we could do a reward and say, if you are accredited, you'll be invited to a thing and be congratulated and get a certificate, or you get the certificate anyway. But for some people, certificates doesn't do it for them. So it's understanding what's the thing that would nudge somebody. It might be that NHS England, Lorraine, might go, do you know what, we require that your finance department, in order to be eligible, or in order for us to have assurance about the quality of what you send to us, we want to know that your department has at least achieved accreditation level whatever. So you could do it through a regulatory arm. And I just think the one-to-one conversation like we're having, all of us are obviously preaching to the converted, because we're either already getting accredited, so we're here because we're interested and we want to learn more. There's a load of finance professionals from our patch who are not on this call for all sorts of reasons. We are in the middle of planning and audit and everything else, so absence is not evidence of not wanting to do this. But there are places, as you've alluded to, we haven't reached yet, and I feel for the teams in those areas, because actually we want to make sure that everyone in NHS finance has an equally good experience and equal good chances of support and development, and not getting thwarted by the fact that there are individuals or personalities in those departments that are refusing to engage with what we know is proven to be a system that makes it better and more productive as a finance department. So there's a real acknowledgement and evidence base that those departments that do this will have all sorts of benefits. So maybe we can, again, if somebody's motivated by what you get from this, rather than treating it like, well, I've got to do it because it's sort of homework, being really explicit about what the benefits, and having vox pops from individuals in those departments who have gone through the process, like people have described today, because it's worth hearing, and not everyone may have heard that. I'm just trying to get the, the psychology of what's stopping people doing this, because to us all here, it feels a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you?
Jamie, you're on mute.
Sorry, Liz, did you want to come in?
Hi, Jamie. Yes, I was just going to say that a piece of work that we're doing as part of the South East Academy is to try and get the 15 that aren't accredited through by the end of this year. And the first meeting that we did, we sent out a template to everybody as a baseline analysis, asking them if they were thinking about being accredited, when they were thinking about going through the process, and what the stumbling blocks were for them. Now, I had about 8 responses, but I didn't have all of the 15 responses back, which I have been trying to follow up. But generally, the response has been its capacity and to try and get through to level 1. So that seems to be the difficulty. And we have throughout the year now set up meetings so that people can dip in and out depending on what time frame or what application date they're going through, so that they can join and speak to other people that are doing the same process to sort of help each other, and we can support them where possible, answering any questions. But yes, it's really the engagement of the ones that haven't responded at all that is the difficulty.
Corinne?
Hi, Jamie. Yeah. I'm just going to say thanks for the session. It's really useful because we got to level 1, but only recently, so start of the year. And for me, I think it was more about I just had to lock myself away and like work through it, like Nick said it was like a checklist, isn't it? You fill it all out because we had a lot of the information. I had to just find it and then collate it all. But then for level 2, for me, it's capacity. I think, like Elizabeth said, I've got to now get the team engaged and get everyone involved. So I think some really good tips there. That I won't be able to do it by myself. Clearly, I've got to get everyone involved and get them G'd up as well. So I think I've got James on the call from my trust as well. So it's just like, we need to like rally together and dice it up. I think, like you said, Nick, that's a really good tip of dice the sections up and do workshops and that type of thing. And thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. Nick, you want to come back in?
I was just going to comment on that, Corinne, and just say the piece to remember is don't try and do it all for a deadline of X point. Plan it and make it, because I think you'll get the buy-in from your team if you make it a longer term kind of development exercise for the team. And actually, if you bring them together, you should find it a kind of really productive process that actually gets that ownership. So I think it comes from, I think Jamie had it at the beginning, it comes from taking it away from just being that kind of level 1 assessment where it is just completing a form. So actually, what is it we want to be as the organisation? So what you've said about getting that engagement, talking to your teams, developing that way is the right way to go.
I'm conscious we're going to hear from Lois as well about the Insights program. So there's no more hands up at the moment. So shall I hand over to Lois if you're available now? Oh, actually, is she frozen? Yep. Oh, there you are.
No, all good.
Yep. Good.
Hope I haven't frozen your end. Okay, so I'll take you through our careers program that we're running as part of the South East Academy. A great opportunity to sort of showcase careers as part of being a value maker, and it's also part of the FFF program. So I'm going to take you through a few adapted slides that we've recently presented to the Sussex Careers Hub. Liz kindly covered that a week or so ago, just to really take you through a whistle-stop tour of what we've been doing in the South East. Sheila Stenson, who's formerly CFO for KMPT, now our CEO, but is still chair of the South East Academy, particularly passionate about promoting careers in NHS finance and procurement. And as Jamie experienced just now, I can't see any of you if you've got hands up, so do shout out if that's okay. So really, the Finance Academy. So I'm just going to stop. That's it. So again, we cover our NHS colleagues in finance, procurement, and digital data analytical and technical roles across 6 ICS regions in the southeast. And that is currently representing 39 NHS organisations. So that's now covering this merged skills development network areas. So southeast, south central regions. They've got a large area to cover. So the current position, we've written a strategy. So the aim of FFF is to develop, connect and support the NHS finance community, and part of the programme's objectives is to promote careers in NHS finance and attract new talent or even the NHS's future leaders. So we came up with writing a strategy. This was completed around April, May-ish last year, an 18-month strategy with our overall mission for the NHS to be the employer of choice for finance, procurement and DDAT professionals. So we really have a critical role to play in preparing interested individuals for the next stage of their education, training and career. I think we'll all acknowledge that the current workplace is more challenging and complex than faced by previous generations. There's greater choices in training, education, employment, and to be that employer of choice, we need to equip people to make informed choices and enhance the reputation of the world-renowned institution within the NHS. So initially, we've rolled out a finance procurement offering. It will soon incorporate the DDAT careers promotion also. So why have we done this? So recognising national gaps in the NHS workforce. NHS is struggling to recruit and retain both in clinical and non-clinical professions. In our strategy, we've set out 3 priorities to make the NHS a great place to work, to attract new talent and develop the talent that we already have and imperatively retain them. So our objectives, so under making the workplace the best it can be, to improve communication, collaboration and sharing of information amongst colleagues, and to increase the number of organisational accreditations. Attracting new talent, so increase the number of applicants within NHS finance and procurement departments. To improve flexible working and promote work-life balance with staff. You'll recognise some of these coming out from a lot of the criteria in the accreditation process as well. And to develop the talent we have to improve our well-being of staff and to improve training and development opportunities for finance and procurement staff. So how the challenges for the South East region, particularly in qualified professions such as finance and procurement, include the proximity to London, competition from the other sectors, the ease of transport links into the capital often mean people choose to live in the home counties and travel for higher salaries and larger organisations. Qualifications transfer between industries much easier than clinical staff, so the market for these professions is broader and more competitive. NHS salaries do not always compare to those in the private sector, as we know, or even government bodies. So it's vital for us in the South East that we are able to demonstrate the non-financial benefits of a career in the NHS and start to attract and retain staff through our careers programme. So these are some of the resources. There's a few resources at national level. These have been developed by the One NHS Finance team. So they have a booklet on NHS finance careers. That can be accessed via their website. You can look up interactive resources for schools on careers in finance, and there's now a dedicated NHS Careers in Finance website. So not just NHS Careers, there is one particularly dedicated for finance careers, in which there's a number of resources. You can look at vacancies, there's things like career stories, videos, etc. on there. At a local level, we have a number of resources as well. So again, career stories. This is just the front cover of our strategy. If you were interested in seeing that, that's on our South East pages. And there's a number of careers resources which can be downloaded from One NHS Finance that you can send out to interested students or educational establishments with interactive, like PowerPoint type programs or files where it shows about career entry points, and if somebody wanted to go into NHS Finance, whether they took the university route or the apprenticeship route. There's a number of interactive games in there that you can do with schools, colleges, universities as well. So networking is crucial to this. So far, we've been to a number of careers fairs, we've delivered talks, we've participated in online webinars, networked with our careers contacts. We're looking to enhance our engagement over the sort of 24-25 year, and of which will lead us to revisiting our strategy from 2025 as we sort of go into the autumn and look at what we've achieved so far. Particular thanks to those who've got involved in careers so far. Liz has been, from our team, has been getting involved with the Sussex Careers Hub. I know that Aflac is a very keen careers ambassador, and promotes that very much in his area. Sophia's recently been out to a school local to us here and stepped into me for me when we had a clash in dates. So that's really much appreciated. I hope to get everybody networking and trying to go out and promoting NHS Finance careers as much as possible. So communication reach, our goal is to really establish and manage a central hub for NHS Finance and Procurement careers in the South East. And this initiative aims to standardise new recruits' experiences. We want to provide support with placements. We've been building a central database of sort of careers contacts in the area, whether it be people from careers hubs, schools, colleges, universities, people that are going out on behalf of the NHS already. And so we're building and building and building that as we go. So on to the Finance Insights Placement Scheme, which Jamie mentioned. So the South East are part of this, very, very proud to be. We've been promoting this heavily, and the applications are open until 5 p.m. on the 24th of May, which is only next week, so we don't have long. So the Finance Insights Placement Scheme is a 12-month paid work experience placement for Year 13 school or college leavers from a lower socio-economic background and are not planning on going to university. So currently our host organisations, we have 4, and the East Kent Hospitals, South Central and West CSU, Surrey and Borders Partnership, and University Hospitals Sussex. So again, for low income families, and the child may have received free school meals sometime over the past 6 years to be eligible, as in lower income families. The criteria is they must be leaving Year 13 and not planning on attending university. So the targets, the schools and colleges that we're targeting are nearest each host organisation, but sadly we don't yet have any takers in Sussex, the Reading Leatherhead area, or the Eastleigh in Hampshire area. So despite there's 4 organisations hosting, it's that the CSU could host in one of their 4 locations. So we currently have about 3 or 4 applications for the South East, but they're all very Kent centric at the moment. But we could potentially place 2 over Ashford and Canterbury if they're if they're suitable. But we really do need a push on trying to get somebody placed in the sort of Lewes Worthing area, either Reading, Leatherhead or Eastleigh if need be. It would be a real shame for these places to go to waste. So that's the Finance Insights Placement Scheme. Nick is our CFO lead for the programme, and we have sort of like a South East working group made up with finance leaders and the host organisations, and we will soon be interviewing successful candidates for the placements after the application date closes. So, but if you want to find out more about how you can get involved or be a host organisation from next year, please do reach out, because I'm sure it'll be fantastic to run this again from 2025 for a September intake. So really on.
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, so I was going to say, can I jump in on that and just
of course.
reiterate that last point? Is the Insights placement is trying to broaden the breadth of talent that we've got within the NHS, and it's a really positive scheme. This year, it's been run successfully in London last year. This year across the South, we're trying for the first time in terms of see how it works, what works well, what we can refine as we move forward. So please, if you're interested, let us know, so because we'll happily use you next year in terms of those thought processes. If you've got any way to connect with people in these areas in terms of across schools that can just get any more interest over the next week or two, please try, because I think it's a really valuable scheme that will really help us as grow the breadth of the kind of talent and the sort of staff that we've got within NHS as we move forward. So just wanted to say that. Sorry.
All right. No, thank you, Nick. That's really helpful. And so really just to finish the last slide I've got, and what we're asking the finance community in the South East to do is, promote that Finance Insight Placement Scheme far and wide. If you've got any connections into local schools near you, please, do shout about this opportunity. It is all over our LinkedIn page. Share it, get it out there, and really try and encourage people in the areas who haven't yet got any applications to get on board and consider a career in NHS finance and how rewarding that could be. Something that I'm particularly passionate about is careers education. So can you connect with the local school? Can you share your career story that we could put it on the South East pages or on the NHS Finance career site? Can you connect with the Careers and Enterprise company in your area? They have a careers hub in each area. All the education people, connect with your local careers hub, look them up. We do have a number of materials that we can supply you with, leaflets, electronic presentations, and we have a number of careers merchandise that you could be taking out to careers fairs that we can furnish you with and get it sort of couriered over to you if that's what you'd like to do, is get out and speak to young people about careers in finance. I've recently been out to a couple of universities and have spoken to students in their business school, and they really are starting to get curious and ask us. And one of the biggest things is that they're going to ask us if we've got any placements going, if we've got any apprenticeships, can they have a summer placement or an internship? So that's what we need to do next, is really to open up those opportunities for young people. And that is the hardest. I know a lot of finance teams, when I ask them, will say, it's capacity, it's tough out there at the moment. You're having to, reduce your overheads, reduce your staffing, having the time and capacity to host somebody, getting them through all the HR processes isn't easy in an organisation. But I really encourage you to try and speak to your HR department or the powers that be to try and think of ways of overcoming that. Even if you work in a hybrid manner, how you could integrate somebody into an office setting for however many days a week, to give them that really rich experience. it's not just hosting the student or those that are coming to work with us either. What the Careers and Enterprise Company are also keen to do is to host teachers, invite them into the workplace for a day or two, and they can come and experience what the real workplace is like, and link that back to the curriculum and take those experiences back to their pupils and their students, and talk about it. So really, you know, just if I can encourage you to open the opportunities for young people, please think about it and please do. And yes, share the South East Careers resources with schools, colleges, universities. We'll be happy to share our database with you as to who you can contact in the area, and share within your organisation, within your teams, connect up with HR, and just to leave it there. If you're not sure where to start, or you want to get off to a start, do reach out and speak to me, because I can give you a number of pointers and get you off to a start and link you up with the right people. So on that note, thank you for listening to me, and any questions? Nikki?
Thank you very much indeed. That was great to hear all of that activity that's going on. Just a thought, we have a carers network at our hospital, which is young carers. And that's the group I'm thinking of immediately that I would want to be connecting this information to, because as you know, a lot of those individuals may be in a single parent family and living with grandparents, etc. And so the prospect of a university route through to education and career is absolutely out of the question for them. And so I think this route is inclusive on so many levels, and I'll be forwarding this information through to our junior carers link and lead. I think it's a terrific opportunity. I have to say, we had an 18-year-old apprentice with us a couple of years ago, and it's really important about how you integrate them in the team, and it's not like taking on somebody who's had several jobs beforehand. I mean, I'm very fortunate in the fact I've had teenagers myself. So I was very tuned into at my previous organisation some of the different approaches that are helpful to support. Again, it's diversity in the team, isn't it? And different needs. One of the things I think really struck me was how much jargon we use in day-to-day NHS finance. And so literally the first morning was we were talking about PFRs and F&I and this individual just said, I actually don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, it's good. I think it's a really great presentation, and thank you very much for all of that. I think we would be very keen to pick up an opportunity for somebody in the Reading area.
Brilliant, thank you, Nikki. And if you need me to send the brochure over to you, I'm happy to. Tracy?
Hello, let's let my camera come on. Have you contacted the local schools? Have you got a list of all the schools and sent them off? So you're not asking us to. So my instant thought was I can send it to here and I can send it to there, but you've probably already done that to the schools.
We have, unfortunately, to radio silence. But if anybody can pick up the phone and speak to them directly, just to encourage applications, that would be very much appreciated. I know the Central One NHS finance team have definitely helped with that, and we've bombarded them with emails, but I don't know, they're probably getting lost in the ether somewhere, and it's just keeping on top of them and really trying to push, because it would, yeah, like I say, it would be such a shame if these placements went to waste.
Okay, thank you. We work 100% from home, although that's not true. We are encouraged to go in one day a week, but we're all sort of pushing back on that a little bit. So it's hard for us to accommodate someone. I think it would be, and we're just about to go down the route of trying to ask people to go back in one day a week, possibly 2 days a week. So there's probably lots of organisations who are in a similar position who would find it really difficult to commit to
Absolutely. I think
hosting.
hybrid working arrangements are making it very difficult to host potential placements or internships and what have you. It is very difficult, and capacity is so difficult at the moment. But I'll give you one example. Sort of end of last year, a graduate from one of our local universities, the business school, came out, completed his business management degree and wanted to come into NHS Finance. And he'd been speaking to somebody who works in NHS Finance in the region, and sort of became very much a mentor for him. And he decided that that was really, really the career path that he wanted to take, really inspired. We knocked on a few doors for him. We asked all over the region, even our neighbouring regions, to see whether we could, just get him a foot in the door. It was all, no, sorry, we don't have the capacity. And I really, really do get it. But the moral of the story is that he's ended up in the private sector. And I think, how many more students like him have graduated and have sort of come up against that brick wall? And so it would be really good if we can further develop our Insights Placement Scheme working group into an overall South East careers focus group of some sort, and start discussions on how we can overcome those sort of barriers here in the South East, and get the doors open, and speak with our HR departments about fast tracking them into some sort of placement. So be really interested to see if we can start putting that sort of thing together. Any other questions, Tanya?
Just to come back on the Insights programme, so I was involved a little bit on the pilot in London, which started off with 5 students, and actually 3 of them, and the other, a 4th one is considering, actually staying in, not only on the NHS, but actually studying. And these are individuals who started off with, they didn't have a clue what they wanted to do career-wise, didn't have any intentions of studying in any way or shape or form. And now we've shaped what they want to do, and they've chosen us, which is great.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I've been speaking to students at my old university, for which I'm an alumni, and joining their alumni network. And, they've been speaking to me about many things, about why it's good to work in the NHS. And I've said to them, it's okay to graduate and still not know what you want to do. But it's getting that foot in the door and getting those taster sessions and starting to build those foundations, and giving them inspiration of where their career could go, and building on whatever skills that they've already developed in university within a real life workplace, and going from there. So if we can open the door to them, then all the better. Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, I just think we've got to lift our heads. I know we're all up to our eyes in stuff at the moment, and you don't grow an oak forest for yourself, you grow it for the next generation. And with the best will in the world, I mean, I'd love to think we're all going to live to be 150, but we're not. We've got to plan and help support the future workforce, and we've got to try and find ways of getting stuff done in a way that means we will have. I mean, we've seen the stats for the NHS as a whole in terms of getting people into jobs and the level of vacancies we've got. I do think for some individuals and some departments, and I hear what you're saying about not being on site. This type of person coming in straight from school is going to need to have somebody there with them. It's not fair to bring them in if you're going to be abandoning them. They will need that support. And there are organisations and jobs and situations where an extra pair of hands, they're not going to be a passenger for the whole time. They'll need some support, but they want to learn. They want to get a job. They want to get a job offer at the end of it. So they're going to be like on a year-long interview to come into the team. So I don't think this is a numbers game, as in we need lots and lots of these, but the ones we do, we need to execute really, really well, so that the reputation of the programme and the benefits that we get from afterwards are really delivered. So I would encourage, if you're able to, then do. But if you can't give it your full support, I would urge you not to, because I don't think it's fair on you or the individual to go into this unless you're able to give that person, I say, the level of support they will need to start, and you'll get the benefit from it, but it won't be in the first couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points, Nikki. Thank you. Okay, well, that's the careers bit done. I don't know who's closing. Tanya or Jamie? Aoife's also going to give an update.
Yeah, so I'll try and make it really quick. Lucky I don't have too much to update on. I just have a couple of things. The next accreditation deadline is on the 31st of May. In line with this, we recently ran a Are You Ready for Level 2 accreditation event. So this may be useful for you to watch back on if you're applying for Level 2 in the near future. That's on our YouTube channel. Cohort 8 of innovations has just been published as of yesterday. There are 26 new innovations for everyone to read through. There is also now an application guide for the EVO framework. I'll circulate that with the recording of this meeting, which is really useful for people to look through. And also the staff survey results have now been published on the website for finance teams, and that's everything from me. Does anyone have any other business they would like to add? No? Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming. I think we'll finish there. And thank you very much to Jamie, Lois and Nick.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.